Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller like me, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we are here to talk about Tragedy Plus Time, a tragic comic memoir by Adam Cayton-Holland, who, are you ready, is a national touring comic who has appeared on Conan, At Midnight, The Meltdown with Jonah Kameo, Happy Endings, Deadbeat, Flophouse, Hidden America with Jonah Ray, and was named one of Esquire's 25 comics to watch and Variety's 10 comics to watch. Those are different numbers. Adam co-created, writes, and stars in True TV's Those Who Can't Get Along with his fellow members of the comedy troupe The Grolics. His albums, Adam Cayton-Holland performs his signature bits, I Don't Know If I Happy, and Backyards are available on iTunes. And his writing has appeared in The Village Voice, Spin, The AV Club, and The Atlantic. He has been described as genial with pretty decent teeth. And he currently lives in Denver. And joining him is Dave Holmes, Esquire's LA editor-at-large. Adam and I have also agreed that you also know him from Homophilia, True Story, host of the live show Friday 40, and he's the author of Party of One. And again, they're here to talk about Tragedy Plus Time, which our own Kumail says, Adam has made me laugh many times. This is the first time he has made me cry. A gorgeous work about accepting the unthinkable with grace, humor, and love. Essential reading for anyone who has ever lost someone, anyone who has ever grieved someone, or anyone who has ever loved someone. Here they are.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah. My first order of business is to go away.
Yeah.
Because you're going to read.
Yeah, Dave was so nice enough to do this favor to sort of moderate this, so I asked him if he could just come up on stage with me and then immediately get off stage.
And then just immediately leave.
And just exit.
So you don't have a book. Are you doing it from memory?
Well, I have a piece of paper. Yeah, I've got the whole book memorized.
Okay, great.
I'm going to do 2 readings. This is actually one piece. I turned in the book way longer than it became back, obviously. And this was an excerpt that didn't make the book that I really like that I was going to read up front.
Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Cayton-Holland.
Thank you, Dave. Wow, worth every penny. Thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate this. A lot of you know me. Some of you knew my little sister Lydia, who is a very special person that this book is a tribute to. And I've been doing a lot of press for this book, and a lot of it is doom and gloom and mental illness and suicide and depression. But as I think you'll find if you've read the book, it's also a celebration of Lydia. So for me, the things that are fun to read are the things that bring her to life rather than because she died when she was 28, and I had 26 years of this really brilliant, quirky, funny, weird individual. And then the last 2 years were, this dark hellstorm. But even in that, there was humor and her life. So I kind of like to focus on the 26 as opposed to the last 2, which is a place that's taken me some doing to get to. So this is a story about waking Lydia up in the morning. That's not in the book, but a current favorite of my own work. Wow. Look at this guy. And so I'm used to comedy clubs where you can't see the faces, and this is horrifying. I call it wake-up call. Come sunrise, we were sworn enemies, because I was a morning person and my little sister Lydia was a demon, at least when she first woke up. My internal clock would go off 5 minutes before my mom was due to wake me up, a good little soldier ready to attack the day. Lydia slept like a gin drunk. Sheets pulled in every direction, her body set at painful angles, like she collapsed that way the night before and hadn't moved since. If you tried to rouse her, God help you. She would lash out, flailing violently with a force that belied her tiny arms. My mom gave it her best shot for many years, but after catching an errant backhand to the face one morning, she called it quits. Not her job anymore. So it became mine. Lydia slept in my older sister Anna's bedroom with Anna. We tried making Lydia sleep in her own bedroom, but it never took, and so Anna, ever gracious, allowed Lydia to bunk with her for her entire childhood. That's just how it was. Lydia needed the safety of the family, the comfort of the nest. Anna was her nocturnal rock. The two of them would fall asleep in Anna's king-size bed watching Star Trek. Then Anna would head out at the crack of dawn with my father, off to figure skating practice before school. That's when Lydia would really tuck in and hibernate. An hour or so later, it was my job to wake the bear. When I was first assigned the duty, I was a saint. I would quietly crack the door, tiptoe over to her softly, and coo, "Lydia, time to wake up." My bedside manner was impeccable, a loving sibling welcoming his sister into the light of the new day. "No!" she would shriek, shrilly, a somnambulant Emily Rose. She'd begin wildly kicking beneath the sheets, gnashing her teeth. "No, no, 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 no!" I took it in stride. I had heard tales of the nasty girl who lived down the hall, and I was not going to be deterred. Lydia and I were going to be locked in this struggle for the foreseeable future. There was nobody lower down on the totem pole for me to punt to. I figured I had to make it work. So I continued to try to kill the beast with kindness for over a month, to gain a little ground each day as though taming a wild animal. But some animals are beyond taming, like a beautiful quetzal that dies the instant you cage it, or a feral possum that just needs to be beaten in the head with a fucking shovel. There was just no getting through to Lydia while she slept. Then I had a breakthrough. I realized that waking Lydia up was only a thankless task if I expected a thank you. If I recalibrated my expectations, asked for nothing in return, and instead tried to find a joy in her rage, mornings would be a lot more fun. So I tweaked my delivery. I would announce myself with a kick to the bedroom door, an initial cannon blast across the bow of her slumbering ship. Boom! It was loud and violent. She'd shoot up in the bed, confused, alarmed, irate. Upon seeing me there in the doorway, she'd begin emitting a high-pitched wail as her head rotated a complete 360 degrees, and thousands of tiny spiders poured from her eyes and mouth. "Lydia, get up!" I would command in my most authoritative voice. She would slam her head back onto the pillow and pull the sheets completely over her head, emitting a piercing shriek that only dogs could hear. "Lydia, I'm going to take a bath. If you're not awake by the time I'm out of the bath, I will fuck you up." Side note, I grew up in a house with no showers. When they built my childhood home way back when, baths were the lay of the land. So every morning before school, I got up and I took a bath as fast as I could. While my classmates were luxuriating in scalding hot showers, I was speed shampooing beneath a spigot, prostrate in inches of tepid water like some sickly medieval prince, so that I wouldn't be late for school. So you see, I'm a bath man. And you can see it in the way I carry myself. Not always, mind you, but at certain moments it really comes through, this innate refinement and sophistication. When I'm wearing a pea coat, for example, with a scarf and it's fall in New York. Or even when I'm just staring wistfully towards the horizon. You'll catch sight of me, and you'll register a certain nobility, and you'll think to yourself, "My God, now there is a man who took baths his whole life." And you'll be right. During my peak years, I could get the job done in 3 minutes flat. So mere moments later, after my initial warning, I would spill out of Anna's bathroom, only to find Lydia snoring like a businessman in first class. "Lydia, I'm going to get dressed, and then I'm coming back here. If you're not up by then, so help me God, I cannot be held responsible for what happens." I would run to my room, quickly get dressed, and return all business. Because at this point, she had blown her chances. Diplomacy had been exhausted. It had become clear that the only thing the beast inside my sister would understand was brute force, which I had in spades. Elbow drop directly onto Lydia's stomach, Macho Man Randy Savage style. She would burst from her slumber, a dervish of elbows and fingernails. She screamed obscenities backwards in Aramaic, her hellhound breath melting the skin from my face. But I could overpower her. I'd pin her down, and I'd begin summoning spit with practiced refinement. First the slow rumble deep in my esophagus, then the hack as I moved the phlegm from the back of my throat up to the tip of my tongue, readying a dose of morning venom. Once I felt my loogie had achieved optimal viscosity, I'd slowly release it through my pursed lips where it dangled, slug-like, in the space between my mouth and my little sister's nose. The creature beneath me would thrash its head back and forth, but such measures were futile. There was only one way out of this, and the beast inside knew this. It must relinquish the girl it inhabited. There had been too many times when that spit had landed, thick and wet, on the demon's nose, eyes, mouth. So finally, begrudgingly, all other options exhausted, the monster would depart from my little sister Lydia, and she would return, blinking rapidly in sudden comprehension. You could see the realizations come over her. The day is beginning. My brother is on top of me. I'm about to swallow 2.5 ounces of his mucus. It is time. This day must begin. Okay, I'll wake up, she'd relent. And I'd retract the loogie and hyperspeed rewind, hop off of her and smile. Good morning, Lydia. I love you. Kill her with kindness. Good morning, she would hiss. Then she'd trot off to the bathroom to brush her teeth, grumbling. But if you watched her closely in those moments and she didn't know that you could see her, the slightest smile would crack her little face. There was a cognizance in that grin, the recognition of the hard-fought efforts of a worthy foe. Game recognizes game, I believe they call it. And as Hyde passed over the baton to her daytime Jekyll, I would head back to my room triumphant. Whatever nocturnal beast tormented her had been vanquished. My little sister Lydia had returned. Thank you.
It was beautiful and disgusting.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Thanks,
well done.
Dave.
So, Adam, how do you feel?
I
The book
feel
is fresh out in the world.
Yeah, I feel
Talk me
really.
through it.
I feel good about it. It's been a long time coming, and I've done a shit ton of media, so I'm a little tired of that. But
Sure.
things like this are really cool.
Yeah.
I enjoy this part of it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're with friends?
Yeah, and people that knew Lydia here, and
Right.
that's just nice. I was kind of telling you on the street, I had a book release in Denver, where I'm from, last week, and so many of parents that I grew up with and that Lydia grew up with, and Lydia's friends came out. So I was expecting it to be this sad event, and it was this very triumphant celebration of her, and people were sharing memories, and it was just like, this was needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that felt really good.
Yeah. How does it's a strange thing when you come out with anything, with any kind of a book, with any kind of a product, with a show.
Yeah.
When you do something that is as intensely personal as this is, and as close to your heart as this is, and you sit with it for a while, and you have a lot of long nights writing, and then all at once it's a thing on a shelf with a price tag on it.
Yeah.
How does that feel? How does that feel to you?
Well, there is the wow, here's my most intimate pain for public consumption,
Right.
which scares me. But I was emailing with you a couple months ago, and you were like, I still don't get over going through a Barnes & Noble and seeing my book on a shelf, because I'm a writer and always wanted to be a writer,
Yeah.
and this is my first book. So I can compartmentalize enough to enjoy, be like, this is my book,
Right.
and it's getting good reviews, and it's
Yeah.
on a shelf.
Yeah.
I love this bookstore. I chose this for a reason, and it's so cool to just walk by and see your book in the window is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar to that first time you and your friends are on TV. You're like, can you believe? You almost feel like I got away with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that scene in That Thing You Do, where they hear their song on the radio for the first time,
Right.
but you're the entire band, right?
I assume you're talking about my TV show, which is accurate. I only said that because Ben Roy's here.
So do you feel, having put something that is so personal out into the world, do you feel naked?
Yeah. So this, the first thing I ever wrote was like an essay. When Lydia died, I didn't feel like doing comedy ever again. And I didn't think I was going to be funny, and I certainly didn't want to talk about it there. But then, the insufferable creative types that we are, I was like, I gotta process this through my art. And so I just wrote a piece about everything I went through and put it online. Right. And it really was cathartic for me, and it got what I needed out at that time. And immediately the reaction was enormous, and people started sharing emails and stories of similar things they'd gone through. So I was immediately hit with the pervasiveness of mental illness, but I was also at the time not ready to have any distance to discuss. And so I think I that sort of girded me as putting this book out. I was like, I know a lot of people are going to reach out, and I'm going to have to politely say, good on you, keep fighting the good fight, but I can't really go into the muck of this with you, because initially I was doing that type of thing. So I'm more prepared for that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In writing, you just read something that didn't make the final cut.
Yeah.
Did you lose a lot of things that you
No,
that
babe.
You really loved?
My editor, it's the power of editors. I was 150 pages too long. And so they cut all that out. And I don't think it was as smooth a narrative. But anything that I really cherished, I was able to get back in. Yeah. This one, I don't know. I kind of wanted this one in, but they were, it just achieves a fun memory of me and Lydia as children. And and I had that in spades. And so I was like, well, I'll find a place for this.
Right.
Yeah.
And there really is a balance in the book. Like there is a lot about the tragedy that happened in your family, but there's also a lot about you and your passion for comedy.
Yeah.
And the way that you funneled yourself through that world,
Definitely.
Did you ever feel like, was it a difficult balance as you were working on it? Did you ever feel like this is too much me or this is not enough me or?
Definitely, because this is this is a memoir, but it's also about Lydia as much about me, and that's a huge responsibility because she's gone. No one else is writing this, so if I did this clumsily or misrepresented her, that would be just the worst thing ever. So I definitely felt, it was a two-pronged memoir. It was more going on here than just me writing about me. I would love to just write about me. I'd love to do that. That'd be fantastic. I think I could do it decently.
Yeah.
But the pressure of her, I felt the entire time.
Yeah.
And, I gave it to my parents and my sister before I turned it into the editor. And I was just like, anything you want out of here, it's gone. This is no like vendetta against my parents. We're a very loving, supportive family. So if anything, the point is like mental illness can rear its head, even in the seemingly most idyllic of family situations. But I gave it to my mom to be like, they tweaked a few details here and there. And my mom said after it that she was like, I felt like I spent the afternoon with Lydia. So I was like, okay, so I've like done it decent justice. If my mom feels like, there's nothing in here that she was like, that doesn't sound like her. She was like, yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I don't care about any, obviously you want good press and stuff, but when I heard that, I was like, I weigh 50 pounds less. I'm good on that. Yeah.
I think I knew you first as a writer from Tumblr.
Oh yeah, really?
I think so.
You got some deep cuts.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a good way to express yourself for a little while.
Yeah, I wrote for a newspaper first, and then I was always writing other things. So that's how I knew of you first as well.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like reconnected in comedy.
Right.
But yeah, I was always a writer first, and so for me it's so satisfying to do this, and like you were saying earlier, have a book out. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was aware that you were a comedian, but you were not in the city that I lived in, and then I read your Tumblr, and I thought like, oh, this is a funny guy with a soul.
Oh, thanks, man. I
I
got to get back to that Tumblr. I've really been neglecting it for a while.
Man. I tried to go back recently. I just can't do it. It's a nicer place.
I bet it is.
Yeah, I mean,
we should all go back to that in like MySpace. I wonder who's my top 8.
Yeah, let's get into Friendster.
With the vitriol of like Twitter and everything, it's just like let's all go back and we'll be exchanging mixtapes and writing zines in 10 years.
Yeah,
and it'll be a much better place.
And retumbling each other's thoughts and whatnot. Oh God. I would love it. What was your what's your writing process? Are you somebody who just glues yourself to a seat and gets it done?
I'm so pretentious, and I've always admired writers forever. So it's like, and then we weren't working on the TV show when I got to the hard writing of this. So I had months to do whatever I wanted. So I work best in the mornings. So it was just great. I'd wake up with my wife. We'd walk the dogs, make a pot of coffee, and just sit down and write for 4 hours. Really? And then I would just, leave it alone. I wouldn't go back to it that day. And I've never been one of those dudes that's like, if it's not coming, whatever, I got to get 1,000 words today. I'm not that way at all.
Yeah.
Are you?
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I feel like that's just bad writing. It's uninspired writing.
It is. Sometimes I do find that sometimes you have to swim out to the boat rather than wait for the boat to come and get you. There are going to be times when you feel like you don't have anything to say. And if you do, if you sit down long enough and you write something that no one's ever going to see, you might arrive at something.
That's very
good.
true. My 6th grade poetry teacher, whenever she would be like, "You write best with a pencil in hand," that was her. That was her mantra. So it's kind of that.
Yeah. What were your distractions, or did you have any?
In writing this or in 6th grade? Because they were everywhere.
Yeah, both, really. They're probably still roughly the same.
Didn't have good usage of the word like. I said the word like too much in 6th grade. Miss Kennedy hated that.
Sure.
The distractions for this were, it was getting it right. And with each family member, they all have varying levels of comfort with me. They're all supportive. No one's like, fuck you for doing this. But they're all, a little worried about it all. And so in the writing process, my mom would, was less forthcoming, but as the book went on, she would like give me more. And I'd be like, look, I think when she realized like it's going out into the world, she's like, well, I better make sure you're not doing a hatchet job. And then, my dad really poured out a lot for me. And he and I just talk a ton about Lydia still. I think he and I, it's weird because I'm way more like my mom in most ways, sort of like Southern woman, very dry, keep your cards close to your chest. I'm like that, I guess, except when it comes to grief, where I'm like, I want to tell everybody. And my dad is kind of like that too. So yeah, it's weird how you're more like one parent than the other. But in the writing process, my mom also did a really cool thing where like when we graduated, each of us, she handed us a bound book. And it was like school years, Adam Cayton-Holland, 1985 to 1998. And there was drawings and poems and just a treasure trove. And so I took Lydia's, and I was like, thank you. Like, talk about source material.
Right.
And, going through old emails and texts and, yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah, we're a well-documented generation.
Definitely. Definitely. She's less than I thought. She passed away in 2012, and that's just how cool she was. She wasn't putting it all out there online. But yeah, we are well, there are places to go.
Yeah. There, I was, as you were saying that, I was thinking there's an element of grief where you do want everyone to know. Not always, but you do, like, you just want people to know about the person or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just about your experience. I mean,
That's very weird. And I think it's true for not just like, quasi-public figures who are like, I live on stage and I talk about what I'm going through. But I think the hurt is so total that when the guy at the coffee shop's like, what would you like today? You're like, can't you see I'm hurting? You just want him to know.
Yeah.
And so I think there is a very human instinct to be like, you need to know this about me. And truthfully, putting this out there has been really therapeutic in that way.
Right.
Like I've never talked about it on stage much, but now I'm like, I can see jokes here and there, and like it's sort of just made it's normalized it.
Right.
And for a long time, especially with that book release last week, it's like no one comes up to me and talks about Lydia. But it was so nice to see last week. They're like, oh, so many people are bursting to talk about Lydia. And so that I just really like that it's like, it's normal. I got a dead sister. It's real sad. I'm sad about it.
Yeah.
And you are too.
Right.
And if you're not, you probably have someone else that you're sad about. And I don't know, it's just been very normalizing, the whole thing, and I appreciate that.
Right.
Yeah.
You touched on it a little bit, but you will have people coming to you for guidance in some way.
Yeah.
Or just to tell you, because you got to tell somebody sometimes.
It's weird. I think, indeliberately, I know I was getting into, but I've definitely become a face of this and mental illness and grief for a little bit. So I'm prepared for it, but yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. Because like I said, I'm I'm a perfect split between my mom and my dad. Like, I want everyone to know about my grief, and then I want everyone to leave me alone. Mm-hmm. And it's ditto on stage. I want a headline for the hour, tell you everything, and then I really don't want to make small talk after the show. It just doesn't make sense, but that's who I am.
Yeah, that actually makes perfect sense. Let's talk for a minute about EMDR. I wanted to make sure I got the
you got
letters
it.
right. Did I? Okay.
You totally got it right.
What is it? Talk us through it.
It's eye movement desensitization, which is very hard to say. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a form of therapy. If any of you read the book, or maybe some of you know it anyway. It's treatment for PTSD basically, right. And it simulates REM, like rapid eye movement. And for me, and I'm learning there's various types of this. Emily Gordon's actually getting trained in EMDR.
Okay,
she'd be good at it.
I bet you would.
But you put these like electronic pulsers in your hand, and you close your eyes, and they kind of tick-tock back and forth. And then with a trained therapist, you go through the awful memory that keeps coming up, be it war or anything. And, spoiler alert, I found Lydia, and that became a very awful memory that was coming up in flashbacks and nightmares and just sucked. And so it got to a point where I was like, I got to do something. And I'd been to several therapists that were not working for me. So somebody, my doctor, just my general physician, he's like, how open are you to like alternative stuff? And I was like, dude, very open at this point. What do you have? Like, is it a crystal? I'll worship it. And then I went and did this, and it was so amazing immediately.
Really?
And it was really it really fucks with your memory. When you have a memory of a person that is so bad and dominant, it just crushes all the other memories, and they go completely away, and it feels like you've been robbed of those like memories. So my therapist likened it to an errant file in a filing cabinet. It's like, this is a loose file that needs to be filed away, and so like EMDR is going to help you file this away, because I was oddly very possessive of that memory. I was like, I don't want to like not have this, because I was like, I was very close to her in that moment. But I was like, I don't want to lose this. And she's like, you're not going to lose it. You can pull it back out when you need it, but we file it away. And so like that worked. And it's like, I really recommend it. Also, a lot of the other shrinks I was going to were great, but they were very pitying. And it was like everyone I went into was just like falling over themselves to show how, like, oh my God, and like dramatic sighs, and I just didn't want it. I resented it. And so I went into this woman who's a badass, and literally I remember like a soldier coming out of her office when I went in for the first time, and you could tell this dude was haunted. And, you know, I got to know her better, and, you know, she deals with people who've had all sorts of abuse. So she wasn't dismissive of what I gone through, but there was this just attitude by her that was tough as nails, which is like, yeah, you've been through some shit, not the worst I've seen, let's get to work. And I just so needed that. It was great. So yeah, that was my experience with the EMDR.
Okay.
And I did it about, I don't even know, 8, 9, 10 times. And then at some point you're just kind of like, I'm done. I think I'm processed. I think it's not coming up.
Right.
And you know, it's so triggering that you have to have like a happy place to retreat to. But it's pretty overpowering. The first time I did it, she was like, you shouldn't drive home. And I just walked around the neighborhood for an hour, and it felt like I was having a mushroom trip. It was like really bright colors, and like cars were so loud. I was really dialed in my brain, and everything was coming in real clear.
Wow.
Yeah, it's intense stuff. I've known other people that have done it now, and it seems to be pretty effective for people in a lot of different areas. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would imagine that your family, and you know, this is their story to tell, have done their own therapeutic journeys.
Yeah, that was like the first initial bonding experience. My parents are, you know, civil rights attorney and former investigative journalist. They're intellectuals and they're badasses, and we all think we're hot shit. Yeah. So, and my sister's the same way, civil rights too. So all of us just like sitting together and just ripping our various bad shrinks apart was like the first time I'd laughed. I was like, oh, here's my family again. Like, you wouldn't believe what this asshole said. And it was just kind of great to professionally condemn these people as a group.
Yeah. But did you feel a responsibility, or were you thinking about in what way you would affect the rest of your family by what you were writing and by putting it out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I still think about that all the time. The one thing we've been very good about, and I'm proud of us, is allowing each member to mourn how they need to mourn. Because my mom was way down for a long time, and it's only recently kind of coming back. Anna doesn't like to talk about it as much. Okay. My dad wants to talk to everybody about it. Okay. You have to. We've learned to be like, there's no right or wrong here, and if you know Adam's got to kind of write about it or talk about it, you know, obviously that's their story too. I'm talking about, but they respect it. Right. And you know, my mom's really nice. She'll call me and, you know, I got a piece in the New York Times, and she was like, it's weird. It's just like she won't say anything about it for months, and then she'll come back and she's like, I just thought you really crushed that article in the New York Times. And I was like, oh, great. Like, and I remember when I sold the book, she's like, I'd love to go to New York with you to like, for that trip, to sign the papers and do all that. And I was just like, every time I think she's completely bowed out from like, because it's too hard for her to deal with, I realize she's been monitoring it from afar for weeks and just like gives me a nice compliment. So it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my dad's got Google alerts, so that's like 10 times a day.
Oh,
the Boulder Weekly put the piece out. I think it's very strong. I'm like, okay, great.
That's so great.
That's great, Johnny.
And it is literally a productive way to process this stuff. It results in an actual product.
Yeah.
That goes out into the world.
Yeah, it is literally a productive way for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm proud of it. You know, and I think she would like it a lot. I think it's a fitting tribute to her. So I think that's about all I could do, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So now you have written about this experience, but also about your entire life leading up to the publication of the book and your relationship with comedy, your first show getting on the air, all of that. And now that's out there.
Yeah, it feels like a real turning point, right?
Yeah. So what do you do now?
I mean, not to just be cheesy, having a kid in November. And like, I'm excited to not be career driven. Like, I feel like the world reminds me of what's important. Like when Lydia died, we sold Those Who Can't 2 weeks later. You know what I mean? And I could give a shit. Right. Happy for the opportunity, but could give a shit. And right before she died, I was going to move to LA and really go for it. I'd just been to Montreal, and it's like my whole brain was career, and showbiz, and like then it's like this is important. Everything you think is important. It's not important. This is what it's important. Yeah. So but that's a life lesson that I continue to carry. But I don't know. I'm excited for a little kid to come be like, oh, you think you're the shit? You're nothing. You're about me from here on out. I could use that. I could use that.
That's great.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that.
That's great. You had something else you wanted to read?
Yeah, I was going to read one more chapter.
Okay, great.
Cool.
I'm going to sit here and watch you this time.
Are you?
Yeah.
Wow. Just when it couldn't get brighter in here. Let me find it. Again, this is like, I like reading stuff about her that makes me happy and not the real sad stuff in the book, which there's plenty of. So this chapter starts. Oh, wait, I have a thing I want to do.
Oh.
You can all hear me. This chapter starts really happy, and then it gets really sad, and I found that cookies make the sad part.
Oh, right on. Hey.
So I would like you to pass those out. These are, as I discussed in the chapter, Lydia crushed these things. Mint Milano's were cookies. So please pass them around, and if you're going to cry, have a Mint Milano. I don't know what nutritional lessons lie therein, but not my agenda. I'm about mental health. Hey, Aldrin, could you keep it down? Trying to read a thing here. Milo. Shh. No, rip it open, dude.
I would love one. Thank you.
Okay, so this chapter is called The Tattooed Lady. My dad and I were playing catch in the front yard of my childhood house. 2 postcard Americans, father and son. It was a bright Sunday. Neighbors walked by and made quaint remarks. Is spring here already? You guys going out for the Rockies this year? People always like seeing us out there. There's something timeless about it. As they walked by, I wondered how many of them knew our story. I wondered if any of them saw Lydia and Anna and me out there when we were kids, setting up lemonade stands and making snowmen. Did they see us trailing after our mom like baby ducks all those years, helping her unload groceries from the car? Did they know what happened to the little girl? Did any of them want to say anything, offer their condolences? Were the ones who just kept their heads down searching for the words? You know what I've realized lately, my dad asked me, both of our fastballs picking up velocity as our arms loosened up. What's that, I asked. That I'm just so over the bullshit of all of it, he said. I asked him what he meant. The bullshit, the dark stuff, the bad stuff, remembering the death itself and the trips to the hospital and the feelings of pain and guilt and all of that. I'm so sick of thinking about it. I could not be more done with that. I could relate. I had been writing this book, thinking about her too much, thinking about too much of the bad stuff. I just miss her, he said. It's been 6 years since Lydia's death, and we're all trying so hard to grieve and to mourn and to process everything we've been through. Some days are successes, others painful failures. It's hard to even keep track. I just miss her. I do too. I miss everything about her. 3 pushes, my dad would often say when he was teasing Lydia. Best at being born. That's all it took, by my dad's account anyway. 3 pushes from my mom, and out she came, wide-eyed, excitable, ready for the world, like she couldn't wait to join her family and get started. I think she lived her life that way, with that urgency. The way she spoke, so fast, so intense. If you didn't get the first word in with Lydia, forget about it. That was your only shot. If you did, Lydia was gracious, happy to listen, happy to hear about everything you wanted to bring to the table and offer informed opinions and advice. But if Lydia took the reins of a conversation, you were off full clip down whatever rabbit hole she was currently occupying. But it was endearing. She was such a gifted thinker, so nimble and eloquent. Before you knew it, you couldn't help but agree that yes, Firefly is the most important television show of the early 2000s, and anyone who doesn't see that is not only fooling themselves, but completely wasting your time. She was an obsessive in the best sense of the word. I never saw my grandfather, the art dealer, in action, but his handiwork was the backdrop of my childhood, and it's clear that the man was gifted, that he had far-ranging, eclectic tastes, and truly appreciated the artists with whom he formed relationships. I imagine that he must have gotten lost in the art, consumed by it. It's not hard to see that in Lydia, in the way she went about truly appreciating things. That's why, in spite of her crippling inability to harness her natural gifts, her circle was always dominated by musicians and artists. She got it. She understood, often better than the artists themselves. She fixated. It was unwavering. I loved watching her fixate. There were no casual interests for her. If something attracted her attention, she would follow it until there was literally nowhere else to turn. And if she could tell you about it, then she was truly at her happiest. She loved sharing her obsessions. She loved turning you on to them. The Tick, the Misfits, the Coen brothers. But even if her tastes weren't cool, she pursued them wholesale. It did not matter the popular perception. If she liked it, that was all that mattered. She was unapologetic. I've never met someone so detached from cultural peer pressure. Hipsters withered at her feet. She was cynical but never ironic. Her friend told me once that they were riding an escalator down to a parking garage after a movie. Lydia started doing high kicks and singing Magical Mr. Mistopheles from Cats. She was in her 20s. Some guy watching her was so charmed by the whole thing, he asked her out. Lydia and her friend gushed about it the whole way home. She was unapologetically herself. I loved watching Lydia interact with animals. She was a Doolittle. She whispered to them. She cooed. And they all responded. Lucy, her hedgehog, Pipkin, her rabbit, Penelope, her gray-lag goose that she hatched in freshman biology as an experiment on imprinting. All the other geese were taken to some farm after the experiment. Imprinting be damned. Not Penelope. She stayed with us, lived in our backyard, a real neighborhood attraction. Lydia's cat was her greatest joy, Sugar, an athletic stray crow assassin that we took in one Halloween night. Sugar was at her beck and call. Lydia would sing her name out and Sugar would come running. Even if she was outside, she'd shoot in through the cat door, track Lydia down, and nimbly jump into her arms. Lydia would boost Sugar up on her shoulders, front paws on one side, back paws on the other, her torso up against the back of Lydia's head so she wore her like a high collar. They would walk around like that, Lydia with her Sugar scarf. Sugar liked all of us. Sugar loved Lydia. When Sugar died, Lydia got a tattoo on her right collarbone of Sugar's paw print, a collarbone that has since been incinerated and sits with the rest of her in a jar in her closet. My little sister. I loved watching Lydia eat. It was fascinating. She would latch onto one food and eat it obsessively for weeks on end. Sautéed spinach with lemon and garlic for 3 weeks straight. Morningstar Farm chicken nuggets for the next 2. She loved Carmine's on Penn, a family high-style, high-end Italian place in Denver. Lydia would order takeout minestrone and baked ziti in a basket of 2 of their complimentary rolls, haul the 10-pound to-go order back to her house, and subsist on it for weeks. A stick-thin, 100-pound glutton feasting in front of Buffy reruns like a mob boss. There was always a grocery store sheet cake in her fridge. Always. And of course, all this was supplemented with a steady regimen of goldfish crackers and mint Milanos, which she consumed with appalling frequency. Pepperidge Farm ought to build a statue of Lydia, somewhere out in the fields of Genevas and pirouettes. So should Coca-Cola, next to the statue of Jordan dunking. She drank 3 Cokes a day, easily. Not Diet Coke, straight up Coca-Cola Classic, Old Faithful, the fucking good stuff. And yet her teeth didn't rot out of her head, and she didn't have diabetes. It powered her, coursed through her body like oil in a truck. She could have been the poster child for Coke. You would have loved watching the satisfaction with which she could drink it. You'd have loved to hear how powerfully she could belch afterwards. My God, It was incredible. I loved having Lydia love me. There was no one more loyal. Her love was total and irrefutable. She held nothing back. Your happiness was hers. So was your suffering, which she could not stand, which she would do anything to remedy. When we were kids, we'd play Oregon Trail on our Apple IIgs, but we could never pack our family into a covered wagon and head out west to meet our fate. We could never punch in John and Linda and Anna and Adam and Lydia as players at the beginning of the game and then head off down the trail, because sickness and suffering awaited us, and Lydia couldn't stand that, even fictionally. It was far easier on her to invent characters. She could handle Marcus dying of dysentery outside of Fort Kearney. Adam, not so much. That's how much she loved us. That's how I know that she had to do what she did. She loved us so goddamn much, and she knew how much we love her and how devastating it would be to us if she took herself out of the equation, yet she did it anyway. The thought of us hurting and suffering hurt her so badly, and yet she still killed herself. She caused us hurt and suffering. That's how I know there was no other choice for her. She knew she would destroy us, but she had to do it anyway. Her pain was that great. And if that's the choice she had to make to end the misery, then I have to choose to love her for that choice. She loved me unconditionally, and I must do the same. We all must do the same. Lydia was so much more than the broken, scared girl she was so often toward the end. She wasn't always confused and sad and haunted. For most of her life, she glowed. She was this awesome original, this strange, funny, powerful force. There was no changing Lydia. It became a point of pride. There was no telling her how it was going to be for her, what she should or could be doing, and there was power in that. We all begrudgingly respected Lydia as immutable, whether we agreed with her or not. Right or wrong, we were impressed with her will, with the sheer force of her being, and we loved her for it. We love her for it still.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
And that really is, for me, the most remarkable thing about the book is that it's not, it is a memoir, and it is a story of a tragedy, but it is, the thing that really shines through is her.
That's,
like you really, I feel like I knew her, and I did.
I love that. I love that. And that was a real goal. I wanted her to come to life a little bit. Because, everyone who knew her was individual. Individual is like the highest compliment I can get. And she really was truly that. So I'm glad she lives on here a little bit. Yeah.
So let's open it up to the audience.
Sure. Let's
Folks, does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Was there any part of writing a book that surprised you, like any part of the process you didn't think about, or something that came up that you were like, oh shit, I didn't even know that was...
I think, honestly, that bit I just read, that was a conclusion I sort of reached in writing. Because, man, I was angry and I was guilty and all the feelings one has after a suicide. And I was holding on to a lot of that, but getting to that point of understanding sort of how far off she was, and it's all about that empathy part. We're realizing that she knew she'd hurt us, and yet she still chose to do it, and that was how far gone she was. That was the only out she could see. It's so quick. It's so amazing how quickly anger vanishes and guilt vanishes, and then you're just sad. It's just sad. But that's how it's always going to be. But I don't know, there was a relief in that. It was like, oh, I think I'm done. I don't think I need to have any more hot takes on this. I think that's the one that I'm going to stick with for probably forever. I truly found it in the writing, eureka! I had the moment, and I was just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. But I didn't expect to get to that part, and so that was that probably just the most profound lesson I took in writing the book. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you find in processing this before you wrote this, where there were interactions that you were just fuck, I don't know if I can share, because people are kind of awful with things like this.
Yeah.
They try to be nice, but they're also awful.
Yeah.
You're terrible to me right now, and I'm having a panic attack or whatever.
Right. Did I keep anything that was too sensitive for myself?
Yeah.
I remember the editor pushing me to be like, well, do you have our medical records and stuff? Like, maybe there's something in there. And I don't think they were saying, like, give us a CSI detail. But I was just like, no, like, no, I don't. And I'm not getting them. And I don't need to go digging in hospitals. I'm not a journalist on this one. I'm a memoirist on this one. But truthfully, I wrote, people are very responding to this, and a lot of people are saying it's helping them, and I love that, but it couldn't be further from why I wrote the book. I just was like helping myself, and I think because of that, I didn't really hold back. I just kind of was like, I need to get this out of me, and it poured out of me. So, I mean, maybe in re-editing, I maybe changed a thing or two, but it's pretty real, and I think people can be awful, like you're saying, but earlier when I was complaining about people reaching out, no one's been, just callously presenting details of my life back to me. It's more just oversharing on their part that I'm just like, okay, this could have been a paragraph and not, 50 paragraphs. So I hope that people maintain, some decency and sort of like parroting this back to me. But no, I didn't really hold back. I don't know. I needed it, and I wrote it, and it came out that way. And I think, I didn't hold back much. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. You ever still see that hawk? I see hawks all the time, dude. No. Well, as Eldrin's alluding to, yeah.
For those who haven't.
Towards the end of the book, there's a weird spiritual turn where I just started having these very strange run-in with red-tailed hawks, and so did my mom, and we were kind of sharing those independently from one another, and we realized like, oh shit, something's going on here. And I mean, you can read further, but it really resonated and it was eerie on several occasions, to the point where you're like, I think Lydia's sort of like reaching out to us. And no, I see hawks all the time, but I haven't had any feelings like that's the one, but I still put a lot of meaning on it. Like when I got married, at this church, there's these two spires, and I've seen them. I drive by the church. I grew up near the church. I've seen hawks perching on that church my whole life. But when I got married, like 2 hawks sat on there, and I was like, okay, I'll assign meaning to that. I'll take that one today. So sometimes I do, but it wasn't as heavy as it was those first couple of weird interactions. Yeah, but I always see a hawk and just I'm reminded of her. Yeah.
Your family seems pretty pragmatic. Did this experience make them more open to signs and symbols and whatnot? I
mean, I think they're pragmatic, but I think they're spiritual in their own ways. Yeah. So, I mean, but my dad lived on the Zuni Indian reservation for a year. He's a searcher, and I think my mom actually is very much too. I think she kind of rejected her religious upbringing and found her own spirituality. I think there's a lot of nature and animals in my family, and always has been. So I don't really, only after this, are you asking your parents, well, what meaning do you assign to that? But I think there's always been a appreciation of that as representative of something more, for sure. Yeah.
Anybody? All right. Well, are you going to sign some books?
I think I'm going to sign some books.
Excellent.
Thank you guys for coming, and thank you to Dave Holmes for sitting here with me, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Adam Cayton-Holland.
Yeah, sign some books.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.